Hello YouTube, it's Bird of Prey 5, and we're here for the review of the Twilight Zone 2019 Season 1, Episode 5, The Wunderkind. And yes, I had to look up Wunderkind because it is a word I have not heard before, nor did I know how to pronounce it. So if I'm getting it wrong, thank you, Merriam-Webster. Wunderkind is defined as a young person who is very successful at a hard profession or difficult profession. Basically, some people use it as a child prodigy, but it can also be used to describe just, a younger person, someone in their 20s perhaps, who is, does a great job in a hard field. And it's used in both ways in this episode. Spoiler alert, actually not a spoiler, but FYI, this one was pretty good. This episode wasn't that bad. Now, I'm still not 100% sure it isn't the fact that last week's episode was just so god-awful cringeworthy that finally they do an episode that, is just mediocre, and by comparison, I want to say, hey, this is good, but I think this is actually a decent episode. It's not perfect, and there are some big issues, and I will get into them in a little bit. But for those who have access to CBS All Access, I wouldn't go purchase a subscription because of this one episode, but it gives me some hope. Okay, if more episodes are like this, maybe they've turned the ship. Maybe they are now pointed in the right direction. They needed 3 or 4 episodes to figure out what they wanted to do. Certainly understandable. And as much as I hated some of those early episodes, if this is the future of the show, they will be easily forgiven/forgotten. That said, I've been jaded by Star Trek Discovery, who pulled this same crap this season, giving us a great episode early on, making us think maybe they've righted the ship. They are no longer headed down a black hole and instead are headed into the galaxy to explore. But no, that was not the fate of Star Trek Discovery. Perhaps the Twilight Zone will not share its fate, although they both are on CBS All Access. So let's get started. This episode, and there are spoilers ahead now. This episode starts out, and we see John Cho, a.k.a. Harold from Harold and Kumar, a.k.a. Sulu from the JJ Abrams Star Trek films, and a.k.a. Raff Hanks. And in this episode, Sulu is, Raff, not Ralph, Raff. Raff is on an operating table or something, chained down. He doesn't know exactly what's going on. You hear noises. They ask, a voice in the distance asks, "Who is the president?" Now, as someone who has been in the hospital bed after a long illness and asked who was the president and got it right, I know they do not ask you who is the president unless something traumatic or big has happened. So we know something is up. Something is up. So then they go back to 5 years prior, and it turns out this, I'm going to say kid, because he's playing a younger guy, and he was apparently the top, the head of a re-election committee. There was a president who served 4 years. The president was actually Dan from Night Court, a.k.a. John Larroquette, I believe. Yes, Dan from Night Court. I hoped he was going to be in this episode more, but no, he only gets about, a minute and a half of airtime. Basically, he was a one-term president. He was a terrible, terrible president by all accounts, but this Ralph Hanks, aka Sulu, helped him change his direction. The polls. This guy knew the polls, and the polls had him winning without a doubt. Without a doubt. Where have we heard this before? He had a better chance than Hillary Clinton, according to the polls, of winning. And of course, Raff is celebrating way too early, and then the polls come in, and not only does the president lose, he loses big time, including his home state of New Jersey. He's Mr. New Jersey, as he calls himself. They lost everything, okay? It was a humiliating defeat. And this guy, Raff Hanks, just had a book come out about him. Okay? Obviously, they had assumed he was going to be winning the election, because everybody seemed to assume it. And the title of the book was The Wunderkind. So there we get our first glimpse at the title. Okay, so the election's over. Raff is lost. I mean, he's been fired. He's been humiliated. He is drunk in a bar, disheveled. He's been out of the game a long, long time. And some random guy at the bar who I thought we might see later, but turned out to really not have too big of a role. He says, "Hey, buddy," and he tries to talk up to Raff a little, and Raff doesn't want to hear anything. He doesn't care. The guy actually had a copy of Raff's book, or at least the bar had a copy. They were using it as a coaster. That could have been, that, in hindsight, I think they were just showing his book was being used as a coaster. Yeah, so there was a copy of the book. The guy leaves, and on the television is this, feel-good news story, not with the serious news, about this 11-year-old who has a YouTube channel, and he's decided, because it's the presidential election. Okay, the presidential election is coming up again. It's been 4 years, I guess. So it's election time. I guess it's been 3 years. It's election time again. And this kid, he was 11 years old. He's pulling a Ralph Wiggum. Yes, The Simpsons did it. The Simpsons did this first. This kid is being all cutesy with his YouTube channel, and he's saying he wants to run for president because he's tired of the wars, and he wants everyone to play more video games, and kids should play video games because it gives them hand-eye coordination and all the things a kid would say that everybody thinks is all cute. And the people in the bar are like, wow, I'd vote for that kid. And it wasn't terrible. And you're like, yeah, things are so bad. And I'll be honest, I think we've gotten to a point in this country, there are people who would consider voting for an 11-year-old. And they do address the fact that it is completely unconstitutional. So I will give them that, although they fail at their constitution in a lot of other ways, and economy, but that's coming. So anyway, obviously this guy, he sees it in his eye. He's like, oh my God, this kid is going to be my comeback, because this kid is just telling it like it is. Where have we heard that before? Yeah, this kid parallels the Donald Trump campaign quite a lot. Giant rallies, lots of social media. Of course, his social media is YouTube rather than Twitter, but it's clear what they were saying. And he's popular. He is super popular. Although he starts out a distant, far behind in the polls initially, his social media success, it gets him to the top. And so anyway, Raff goes over to this kid's house, talks with his parents, and the parents are like, at first, like, wait, we can't really. He's a joke. He's not really going to run for president. He's 11 years old. He can't even be president. And Raff's like, don't worry. No. The mother's name is Helen. Don't worry, Helen. It would be your name on the ticket. So people are actually voting for the mother, but with the understanding that the kid would be president. Now that's important, that technically the mother is president, not the kid. Also, if you know Twilight Zone, and I think we all do, or we wouldn't be here, we all know not to give kids power, else you're going to end up like a jack-o'-lantern. No, not a jack-o'-lantern, damn it. A jack-in-the-box. Same. They're both jacks. Like a jack-in-the-box. Yes, much worse. Much worse to be a jack-in-the-box than a jack-o'-lantern. You don't want to become the jack-in-the-box. So we know this is not going to go well. But this guy, he talks to the parents. He promises them that this will be great for the kid, that he'll make enough money from endorsements and book deals and everything, even if he doesn't win, to pay for his college and his sister's college and the dog's college. The dog's name is Homer, by the way. I think they realized that this was a ripoff of the Simpsons episode where Ralph ran for president, but good for them. You know what? They went a little above and beyond than the Simpsons did, but it was a Simpsons idea. So Homer the dog, they're all going to go to college, and the father did a little research. He says, hey, I know what you are. I know what you did. I know who you are. You're just an opportunist. And he realizes that, hey, this kid is telling it like it is, so maybe he'll try that. And he says, yes, I am. He owns it. He owns it. I am an opportunist. But he gives the parents this great speech about how it's going to be good for the kid. And hell, even I was buying it. Sure, let the kid run. Let the kid run. The Constitution be damned. Whatever. So, of course, the kid runs, and he's doing great. He's putting out YouTube videos, and his old, this woman who was helping him on the last presidential campaign, she comes around to see if you want to get the band back together. So she comes in to help too. Honestly, I don't remember her name. She really didn't have much to do with anything except one part later. So they're together now, and kid's doing well. The first sign of trouble, and this is going to come back at the end. The first sign of trouble is on the set of a music video. Power has now gotten to the kid's head. He's getting his first little taste of power. And after the music video's done filming, the mom is saying to the kid, it's time to go to the doctor. It's time to go to the doctor. And the kid's like, no, I don't want to go to the doctor. I hate doctors. They're old men and their breath smells bad and they stick me. I hate doctors. I'm not going. And the mother's like, don't you say no to me, kid. We're going. And the kid has a temper tantrum, holding his ears and everything, yelling, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, and runs away. And not runs away from home, just runs away from the mother. And of course, Raff Hanks, he's there watching, and he's like, well, whatever. He doesn't give it too much, but he should be worried. He should be worried. Because I'll be honest, this episode doesn't disappoint. We get the true Twilight Zone twist at the end. So the kid runs away. We know trouble's a brewing, but we knew trouble was a brewing from the moment we tuned into a Twilight Zone episode, because that's what we come for. So time goes on. Time moves pretty fast. He starts to do really, really well in the polls. He's communicating with the voters, and the time comes for the first debate. They are at debate prep. And the kid, for some God unknown reason, is trying to answer questions like an adult would. Okay, they give him a question about taxes, and instead of being himself and saying, I'll hire people to deal with taxes, I don't want deal with taxes. I'm not here to discuss taxes. The kid tries to read an answer that he didn't memorize well. The guy they hired to do debate prep gets so frustrated. He says this kid is a loser or whatever. He's never going to win. He didn't memorize anything he told him to. The kid just wants to play video games because after all, he is a 11-year-old kid. So they fire that guy because he obviously isn't helping. And Raff is reassuring the parents, don't worry, he'll do good in the debate. He'll just do his thing. Now, Raff, why did you not tell the kid to just be yourself, to not try to answer questions about taxes? Just give him some deflection points. Give him something, okay? Say, I'm not here about that. I'm here to talk about video games and blah, 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 blah. For whatever reason, he didn't. The first debate comes, and the kid bombs. The kid bombs hard. He is embarrassed. It's like an embarrassment. I thought he was going to piss his pants. It is a national embarrassment they have never seen. And, of course, all the other political advisors behind stage, they're all laughing at Raff at this point. This is the second campaign he is torpedoed. And the worst thing for him was losing the respect of his peers. So they are laughing hysterically. This poor kid literally starts crying for his mother on stage, and the mother and the father and the sister, they all come out on stage and they take him away. And to the next day, he is a laughing stock of the nation. He didn't do well. And the parents are super upset at Raff. They blame him. It was their fault. They're the ones that made the decision, but they blame Raff. Fine, Raff. He takes the hit. And Raff goes back to drinking because he destroyed another family. He destroyed a family. From what he knows, he destroyed a family. So he's back at the same bar he was after swearing he had gone clean, and I completely believe he did early on. But he went back to the booze. And the TVs comes on, and they're talking about how terrible the kid was and whatever. And the bartender shuts it off, and he's like, oh, thank you for taking pity on me. Bartender's like, I'm not here to take pity on you. I just don't want you crying anymore. It scares away the other customers. So he's not been having a good time. And that's when the other lady who had come in from the campaign earlier makes her only important part in this episode. She comes into the bar, finds him, gives him grief about going back to using alcohol, being a drunk again. And she says, I passed by. Oh, right. Excuse me. The kid's name, by the way, Oliver Foley. Oliver, callback, Oliver Foley, Foley. Any relation to Captain Foley? I don't know. You'd have to ask Captain Foley. Trek Yards, Captain Foley. I don't know. Did CBS needed a name? And they said, I know. Let's use Foley. They're big fans of our work. But yes, Captain Foley, you made it. You made it into the Twilight Zone as an 11-year-old kid named Oliver, which I believe was the name of the kid from the older Twilight Zone episode that went horribly wrong. So yes, Oliver Foley. So the Foley, she dropped by the Foleys, and she said, he's like, how are they doing? She's like, well, like you'd imagine. And that meant bad. And then she said, actually, maybe even a little worse. And he's like, oh, Jesus. And she's like, oh, you remember their dog, Homer? And yeah, she's like, Homer has cancer. He's going to die. And the guy, he's feeling pretty bad. And then she says, oh, and Oliver did say to say hi to you. And he's like, really? And she's like, yeah. She says, Oliver doesn't blame you. He honestly wanted to know how you were doing. And he felt a lot better at that. And then he's like, so the dog's got cancer. And she's like, yeah, they're going to make he wanted your permission. Oliver wanted your permission for them to make a YouTube video about the dog, because Raff had been not giving permission, but Raff had been kind of telling him what type of videos to make these last few months. So the fact that the kid still thinks Raff is in charge, even though he's clearly either quit or been fired, it weighs on him. And he's like, yes, of course he should make a video. And the woman said, yeah, that's what I told him too. So so now Raff gets a sparkle in his eye. Dying dog. New YouTube video. He's like, we can do it. We can do it. This video will bring us back. Everybody will give him, will be sad about the dying dog. And, how can you not connect with that? His big message has been about connecting with the voters. So good, yes. Let's do this video. And Raff goes back, and he's gonna right this ship. And next thing you know, they put out this video about the dog and about how cancer is bad. And the kid says, listen, when I'm president, I am going to make sure everybody has a job. He sounds like a congresswoman from New York. Everyone's going to have a job, and everyone is going to get free video games for everybody, whether they want PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, whatever they want. Free video games. Everybody gets a job, and you're going to have a lot of time to spend off, because every month is going to have a holiday like Christmas. Okay, so you're going to get like 2 weeks off every month for holidays, so you can spend time with your loved ones, because he was sad about losing his dog, and he skyrockets. The entire country forgets what an embarrassment he was. His polls skyrocket, and the next thing we know, he is being inaugurated as president. Okay, inaugurated as president. And that is when things go from bad to worse. Of course, remember, the mother was president. The mother is the actual president. Do we see her being sworn in? No. No, we don't. For all practical purposes, he's president. In fact, in the White House, he's the one sitting behind the Oval Desk, and everybody has to call him Mr. President. Okay? Which he is not. He is not president, but the entire country is in on this. He's president, even though the mother is technically the president. So, very early on, he starts having power trips. Okay? And the first thing he does, he's like, okay, now we got to give everybody their free video games, because we have to do all my campaign promises, because I'm tired of everybody lying. Let's get to my campaign promises. And he charges somebody with giving everybody a free video game. And he's like, oh, sir. He laughs. He's like, sir, we can't really do that. And he's like, what are you talking about? And the mother's like, we spoke about this, Oliver. Congress isn't going to... And the guy's like, yeah, Congress is going to have a hard time, passing that. And he's like, and even if they did... He's like, why would companies want to give away all these games for free? And the kid's like, they have to. And they're like, well, no, they don't. And he's like, I'm the president of the United States. They have to. And then things start to get a little tense. And he's like, but no, it doesn't work that way. He's like, if they don't, we'll put $1 million tax on every Game Boy. Yes, he said Game Boy, which... Every Game Boy, and the entire industry will collapse overnight. And that's when you're like, uh-oh. Kid might be thinking a little too far ahead. and not for his own good. He basically says, you either do it or you're fired. And they go to another scene, and in the next scene, everybody's got their video games. Everybody has their video games, but you can tell Raff has been having second thoughts ever since he saw him throw that temper tantrum at the music video. But he needed this. He needed this win for himself, so he overlooked it. He overlooked a lot of red flags, and it's only now that Oliver Foley is in the White House is Raff really starting to have reservations. Over the coming weeks, Raff makes more outrageous demands. Okay, and Foley is realizing, hey, this is crazy, and he tries to talk to the general who's been relegated to pushing Raff on a swing that's been installed in the Oval Office. And Raff has talked to the general on the side, and he's like, listen, something is wrong here. We've got to do something. And the general is like, this is an odd time or a bad time to be talking treason. He's like, the polls are way up. Everybody loves them. Everybody loves their free video games. And Raff backs up. He's like, I'm not talking treason. And general's like, it sounds to me like you are, because I took an oath to follow orders from the President of the United States. And if that president's 11 years old and he says to jump, I say how high. So he totally is not at all. He's 100% behind the president. He knows what's good for him. And Ralph is like, okay, fine, whatever. I wasn't talking about treason. So then the Raff talks to that woman who had been with the campaign, and she's like, well, listen, if it's that big, talk to... Oh, right, the woman said, your problem, Raff, was that you stayed on. You should have left. You should have left like I did. She's like, I'm in private business now, and the industry is booming, and that's our first big tactical mistake here. Okay? If President 11-year-old took office and the first thing demanded companies give away free video games and all these other ridiculous things being given away, the economy would not be booming. The economy would be falling apart, okay? What industry would be next? Panic would take over. So they clearly don't understand how the economy works, but you know what? Seems like very few people do. So I will, for the sake of it being a good episode, it is something I will overlook. But I do have to point out, the economy would not be booming. So she's like, you should have come with me. The economy is booming. You'd be making big money on the outside. And then she gives him the terrible advice that, hey, if you really means that much to you, then talk to him. He's like, I tried to talk to him. He's not. He's like, well, she's like, well, try. He likes you. So he goes in and he interrupts the president. The president is in the White House putting green, which he said was installed by Nixon. And it's an indoor room. And he opens the door, and the kid was in the middle of a putt and blames him for making him miss the putt, even though he clearly is not so great at putting, at golfing. He's angry. He never gets a hole in one. And he's like, come play with me, Raff. Okay, Raff comes in, plays, and he's like, listen, I wanted to talk to you. And the kid's like, yeah, I wanted to talk to you too. And then he turns the lights from bright to this like dark green pattern of like, I don't know. You think you were on the Discovery Bridge or something. It's bad. It's like a den of hell. And he's like, so why are you being so treasonous? So clearly the general spoke to him. And Ralph's like, no, I'm not being treasonous. And he's like, Oliver, I just think. And he's like, it's not Oliver, it's Mr. President. And So then the kid is having a tantrum about never being able to get a hole in one. Finally, the kid runs over to the far side of the room and knocks over a entire basket full of golf balls, like 150, 200 golf balls go all over the room, and like 3 go in the hole by coincidence. And he's like, there, I got a hole in one. Finally, a hole in one. And Raff is like, Oliver, that's not how it works. And he's like, Mr. President. And then he's like, well, what about your treason? He's like, I'm not being treasonous. And he says, yes, you are. The kid says, yes, you are. He's like, if you are not 100% with me, you are treasonous. You are against me. And Rafi's like, this is his moral crisis. And the kid's like, so it was a hole in one. Yes, you agree? And he's like, Oliver, it doesn't work that way. I'm not treasonous. I'm not being treasonous. But Oliver, and make sure to say Oliver, not Mr. President. Oliver, it doesn't work that way. That was not a hole in one. And he stares down Oliver, who is pretty much alone except with his 2 Secret Service agents that are, of course, always with him. They are by the door of the room, and Rafi and the president are kind of on the far side. It's not a very big room, but it's a putting green. And so they're staring each other down, and what is the next move? What happens? And I was not seeing this. I did not see this coming. Also, there was a picture in the background. Oh, I should have looked up. I think it was Andrew Jackson. Could have been Thomas Jefferson. I know, I'm bad. I'm sorry. It's one of those guys. His picture is up on the wall. Maybe Alexander Hamilton. One of the founding fathers' pictures is in the wall in this putting room. And they're staring each other down. And finally the kid yells, gun! He's got a gun! He's got a gun! Shoot him! And the Secret Service pull out their weapons and shoot Rafi many times. Many times. And you're like, oh shit. Blood goes all over the painting. All over the painting. Now, throughout this episode, and like I said, this episode started, Rafi is on the operating table in what looks like a hospital. I'm sorry. Before we get to this, I do apologize. Another thing that Rafi saw that he did not like was the president, and that makes no sense because, again, he's not really the president. But President Oliver, it's time for his checkup, okay? Apparently, they say that Congress requires that once a year the president has a physical. So it was time for him to go to the doctor, and he's like, no, cancel it. I'm not going to the doctors anymore. They're all old men, and I don't like old people being doctors. Blah, 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 blah. I hate it. Cancel it and never reschedule it. Now, here's another problem. He's not president, technically. Mother is president. So this should never have been an issue because his mother should have gone for the physical, and that should have been delivered to Congress, and none of what's going to happen at the end would have happened. But again, we will forgive that because it's just a good story. So, yes. So he saw it. Anyway, one of the things that came out of that temper tantrum was to make all the old doctors go away. So they're not allowed to be old doctors anymore. You can only be young to be a doctor. No more old doctors. What is old for an 11-year-old? That will come out later. But no more old doctors. And so you have to be young. So that was an edict issued by President Oliver that seems to have to not worry about Congress in the slightest. Fine, whatever. So getting back to the end, poor Raff has just been shot a bunch of times. And now we see why he's on the operating table and why he's restrained, because the Secret Service. We also get some news clips that's going on public where the story got broke that Raff tried to attack the president. So all the public is against him. They all say he got what he deserved. He got what he deserved. He got what he deserved, because they all think he tried to kill the most popular president in the world, which is Oliver of all time. But of course he would not be, because society would have collapsed. Okay, if he got rid of all the doctors and he's making companies make products for free, society would have collapsed. He would not have a great, he would not have a good, he wouldn't have even an average approval rating. His approval rating would be disastrous, would be near zero, because there would be no society left to even take the ratings. That's how bad society would be. So we have to suspend our disbelief that the economy could actually function as this kid wants it to. But here's the payoff. At the end, there's a guy finally comes into the room and says, "Oh, you're alive. We almost lost you there. We have to operate." Presumably they got to take out the bullets. Anyway, this guy excuse me. This guy, he's not terribly old. He looks like he could have been maybe fresh out of medical school, maybe been in the hospital for a few years doing his residency or however long that takes. Younger guy, but he's like, "Oh, the doctor will be right in," and that's when it clicks. That's when it clicks in Rafi's head, and it clicks in the viewer's head. What is the doctor going to look like? Because President Oliver got rid of all the old doctors. So another 11-year-old looking kid comes in, maybe younger, in the scrubs, and the kid's like, "Yeah, I gotta go in, I gotta cut you open." And Robbie's like, "No, I want the other guy." And the other guy's like, "Sorry, sir, under the law, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a health aide or something. I'm not allowed to do surgery on you." So this little kid, he's like, I gotta get this over with, I gotta get back to playing my video games. And without anesthesia or anything, this kid just takes a knife that's next to the bed table and starts jabbing it in, like doing surgery without absolutely any experience. So we assume Raffi does end up dead, though we don't see the funeral. And at the end, we say everybody, he got what he deserved. And then Jordan Peele comes in to tell us about how, he had to go to the Twilight Zone. So, okay, you know what? We got our twist ending. We got that what this guy had done, had set in motion, came back to bite him in the end, at the very end. Yeah, okay. The kid, the racial balance, nothing felt forced. Yes, John Cho, who's the kind of the main character, also presumably the only good guy. He's not a white guy, but you know what? It's fine. This episode, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel forced. It didn't feel like they were trying to bash white people, especially white men, which it felt like in all the previous episodes. I mean, literally, not only did it sound like it, I mean, the very first episode, he said, what's his face said, "Old white man," with such contempt. So it's not something I'm making up. I mean, they're clearly, it was the agenda. They said it out loud. So, yeah, this one, everything was pretty damn good. The balance, the story was good. The twist at the end. Yeah, they don't understand politics. They don't understand the economy. But you know what? So few people do. It doesn't ruin it. It doesn't ruin it. It is certainly something I'm willing to suspend disbelief on. And yeah, so you know what? I gotta say, this was a pretty damn good episode of Twilight Zone. This could certainly be, and it was only 40 minutes. It was only 40 minutes less, even less after you take off the credits and the scenes from next episode. Which, by the way, next episode takes place in space. So that's looking pretty cool, although I'm already concerned considering the makeup of the crew, but we'll see. We'll see. Could be a great episode, could be a good episode, maybe bad. But gives me some hope for next week. Looks like a decent setup anyway. So yes, this was a relatively short episode for the new Twilight Zone. I think it worked out really well. Maybe there was 35 minutes of actual footage, which I think is about the sweet spot for the Twilight Zone. So I'm not surprised that this episode felt pretty good, and it was one of the shorter ones. So, yeah. Final verdict, I honestly, on the Twilight Zone scale, I would give this a 7 out of 10. I would say this was a pretty good episode. I wouldn't mind watching this again, okay? If this showed up in Sci-Fi Channel's Twilight Zone marathon in 5 years, in between Terror at 20,000 Feet and To Serve Man, I wouldn't skip it. I'd watch it again. I would watch it again, which is high praise. High praise. So good job, Jordan Peele. Good job. Please keep it up. Please keep your episodes more like this. Keep your episodes more like this, and I will be happy to watch. I might even keep CBS All Access, even though my trial is set to expire in a couple weeks. But I need to see 2 more good episodes first. If these episodes go back to like they were the first few, then I'm sorry, it's over. It's over. So with that, everybody, I liked it. I hope you get a chance to see it. If you do, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments. And thank you so much. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And Qapla! Hopefully I will see you around on one of my perhaps live streams. And we have so much coming up this weekend. The Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind, becomes available tonight for early backers such as myself. Cannot wait. The Orville season finale tonight. Cannot wait. Endgame. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be seeing it right away, but damn, Endgame. I'm hearing amazing things about Endgame. And of course, this Sunday, Game of Thrones, the battle we have been waiting for. It is a tremendous weekend. Extended weekend. Oh, and Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is back for season 2. It just hit Netflix Premium. Whatever you do, if you have not seen Cobra Kai, go and get it. Netflix. I'm sorry, not Netflix. YouTube. It hit YouTube. Cobra Kai on YouTube. YouTube gives a 1 month free subscription. Go get that free subscription if you do not already have YouTube Premium. You can binge the whole season in just a few days. And if you haven't seen season 1, even better. Cobra Kai season 1, the best season of television in many years. It is great stuff. So I cannot advise you enough. See Cobra Kai. That is some good stuff. So yes, it is going to be a busy few days. I hope you all enjoy what's coming. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you didn't, tell me what I can improve. Let me know. I'll take any criticism. So Qapla, y'all. Qapla. Thank you all for watching my video. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. Without it, you won't get notifications of new videos. If you want to visit me, check out my forum at juot.net. I'm also on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. And if you're really crazy, you can send me some money on PayPal. Take care.